Today on MWIRE Weekly, we'll be discussing the casting of Gambit, some actors with some harsh words for a couple films they're involved with, the new Interstellar trailer, and our main attraction, Godzilla. All that and more coming up on MWIRE Weekly. That's right, it's MWIRE Weekly. I am your host, Optimus Solo, and with me, pay attention, folks, this is Adolfo Shabadoo. Nate, hello.
Hello.
Just in case anyone can't remember his name. And he is my roommate. And then our mutual friend here, Matt Fridley Sent. Hello.
Hello.
Just wanted to get our names clear and out there so that there's no confusion. How are you guys doing?
Good. It's always weird when you ask, how are you guys doing? Because it's like, do I say something first?
I did that on purpose just to see what would happen. But as we do every week, we will start our MWIRE Weekly off with a box office discussion, a look at this past weekend at the box office. And even though it had some competition, I suppose, from Spider-Man and Captain America and some other films out there, I don't think it's any surprise that the number one film this past weekend would be Godzilla. Coming in at $93 million. So missed the 100 million mark, but it's a little over halfway to its budget in the first week, so I don't think they can be too upset about that. Definitely was a lot of buzz, a lot more buzz about this film than I expected. Maybe that's just me not growing up like watching all the Godzilla stuff, but I wasn't sure how this would go over, but there was definitely a lot of buzz about it. Rounding off our top five, Neighbors came in at number 2 with almost 26 million. Amazing Spider-Man 2 third with just about 17 million. $1 Million Man debuted at fourth with, or $1 Million Arm debuted at the fourth spot with 10.5 million, and then rounding off the top five was The Other Woman still with just over 6 million. Any surprises there, Matt?
No, but I got a joke with the way healthcare is going. $1 Million Man's a broken arm. Woo, woo.
Shut up, Matt.
Okay. No.
What about you, Nate? Any surprises? Godzilla on top?
No, I expected Godzilla to be on top. I did not expect Neighbors to do so well again, beating Spider-Man again.
Yeah, I mean, Spider-Man's doing all right. It's still got like 172 million, so that's not shabby.
Nope.
But definitely, I don't know. They timed that to come out in a weird time. Right after Captain America, right before Godzilla, right before X-Men. But I am surprised with how well Neighbors is doing. But I guess I shouldn't be. It's really just about the only comedy for a bunch of college-age people that are just getting done with school, so they're looking for stuff to do probably. Now that their finals are over. So
I did hear it was really good though.
Yeah.
Like it's legitimately a funny movie. So.
I'll see it before the end of the year. I just don't know when, because there's way too many other things coming out, and we're not going to slow down anytime soon.
That's depressing. I need money.
Captain America is still doing decent. It's in the top 10. No humongous drops outside of. Brick Mansion's dropped quite a bit again. That's not going to make its budget. So I guess that's sad. Other than that, there wasn't too huge of any like type surprises or anything like that. Rio 2 in its sixth week is still beating out by almost double of Legend of Oz: Dorothy's Return, and that's only in its second week. So that's not good for Legend of Oz people. Although I don't know what its budget is, it's got to be close to 100 million. If it's got to be between 75 and 100 million, and it's not going to even come close to making that. So. And if we look at our yearly box office, as we do every week, not a big mover or shaker yet, but there might be next week. Right now, the Lego Movie still reigns supreme at number 1. It probably is going to be its last week at number 1 for the year. It's at 253 million, and Captain America is at 250. So Captain America may pass that this next week. Then Amazing Spider-Man 2 is in third place, Divergent in fourth, and Ride Along is still in the top 5. So we'll have to see if Godzilla and then X-Men shake that up at all, and maybe eventually we'll have an all top 5 full of Marvel and DC properties or comic book properties. Getting into the news, there's not a lot of it this week, but few interesting things about some actors speaking out about potential films and franchises they were or are involved with, starting with the Spring Breakers franchise. Spring Breakers was a film that came out last year. A lot of people kind of wrote it off based on the trailer and the premise, but it actually got pretty darn good reviews, and a lot of people said a lot of good things about it. So apparently they, as we reported a few weeks ago, are doing a Spring Breakers 2. I think it's called, what was it called? Spring Breakers Second Coming or something like that. I want to say that's what they're titling the sequel. But anyways, apparently it is not going to include James Franco #1, but it's also not going to include the director from the first one, Harmony. I believe it's Corinne. And James Franco is not apparently happy that they're doing that. And he put a pretty strong statement out there that basically it's just being made to make money. And that they're capitalizing, the producers are capitalizing on somebody else's, basically unique creativity for the first film. And he's basically saying that people should stay away from it. He said it's going to be a terrible film. It's, I don't know. He's speaking up for the director, and I kind of give him credit for that. And he's saying that it's he'd rather preserve artistic integrity and not just be a money grab, which apparently is what it's going to do. And the producers from the film, Chris Hanley and Roberta Hanley, fired back. This is a quote from Chris Hanley. "Let's see if I can remember all the sequels James has done. The Great and Mighty Oz, Spider-Man, Planet of the Apes." And apparently he's pushing hard to help set up the Pineapple Express sequel. So I guess he thinks only too big to fail studio films are the artistically valid ventures. So got some bad blood there. But me personally, I think it's cool that he's standing up for the creativity part and the director from the first one, and pointing out when a sequel is just strictly about trying to make money and not necessarily caring about the story too much. What did you think about that article, Matt?
Well, I like how the last sentence says, "Spring Breakers: The Second Coming was a new incarnation of the film." Can we remake a movie from a year ago?
It's totally different. It's new. We're just gonna say Spring Breakers in the title.
It's gonna be the second one. It's gonna have an all new cast and director. It's gonna be like 22 Jump Street, only without the same cast. Where in the trailer they're like, "Yeah, that thing that worked last time, do that again, exactly the same way."
At least they're acknowledging that, I guess.
It's really hard to take the side of the producer.
Right.
On this one.
Yeah, this one makes me just. I mean, I haven't seen the first one, but this definitely makes me not want to see the second one. So,
it does make me want to see the first one more, though.
Yeah.
We have to see that sometime because, like I said, I've heard a lot of good things, especially about James Franco's character. So I'm interested to see exactly how that played out. And another actor kind of speaking out somewhat against his franchise, I guess. And to me, this is I don't like to get too hyped up on like rumors and stuff before the movie. Like, I like to give every movie its fair shot, unless it's just like every single person I talk to is kind of hating on it. Then I might put a little credence in it, but I usually try to ignore it. But when it's something like this from Viggo Mortensen about the next Hobbit film, to me this can only mean bad things for the next Hobbit film. And basically he came out and was talking about Peter Jackson going a little bit too far overboard in his obsession with the visual effects and the CG, etc. He's always been kind of looked at as quote unquote a geek when it comes to technology, but he's saying that it's been a kind of a slippery slope downhill, and each movie just gets more about the CG and the effects and less about the subtlety, less about the story. And I'll just read this last part. In the first movie, he said it was grandiose and all that, but whatever was subtle in the first movie gradually got lost in the second and third. Now with The Hobbit 1 and 2, it's like that to the power of 10.
Jeez.
So, yeah, I don't think that can be a good, that can't mean anything good for the next Hobbit film.
It'll do well, though.
Yeah, it'll do well, but I mean, as far as like how it gets reviewed and like the legacy that the Hobbit trilogy has overall, I don't know. It seems like Peter Jackson has gone the way of George Lucas and become too obsessed with what he can do technologically. and maybe the story and the actual movie making is going to suffer for that. Have you guys both seen, or either of you have seen the other Hobbit films?
I saw the first one, the extended edition. I had a
Uh,
friend who had gotten it on, and he loaned it to me. And as someone like The Hobbit is probably my top 3 favorite books of all time, and the amount of things they changed in that first movie put me off so much that I don't even want to see the other two.
yeah,
And I agree 100% with what he said. It does seem to get like less and less story, more and more like ooh pretty.
right.
Because like all the things that they added that weren't in the book were just like more and more visual stuff, and it wasn't like it was a better story. It was just more pretty.
Hmm.
Hmm.
What about Nate? You, Nate, did you see the Hobbit film?
I've only seen the first one as well.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I don't know. Definitely the Lord of the Rings now is much less of a big deal to me. I remember when I was younger, and I guess it was probably because I was reading the books at the same time as the movie was coming out, that I was really into them. But I don't know. Nowadays, it's not really a thing that like pushes any sort of boundary or does anything special. It's since I guess the visual effects is already like so many studios are doing amazing things with visual effects that it's not really special anymore.
Yeah.
So, and to be completely honest, the story of the Lord of the Rings is good, but it's not like groundbreaking or anything, since it's such an old book, and the characters have become cliches because they were like the first. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And this quote actually probably is a better one to read from him. It says, "In the first movie, yes, there's Rivendell and Mordor, but there's sort of an organic quality to it. Actors acting with each other and real landscapes. It's grittier. The second movie already started ballooning for my taste, and then by the third one, there were a lot of special effects." um, so I don't know, when a movie, it's not very often that an actor's going to say something bad about a movie that they're involved with or a franchise they're involved with, because they're not going to try to hurt how it does, at the box office, etc. So if he's willing to come out and say that, I just think that's not a good sign for the Hobbit kind of righting the ship, because it already isn't doing nearly as well as the Lord of the Rings films. So I think we can expect more of that. Speaking of the fantasy realm, Harry Potter spinoff that we talked about a couple months ago probably has been scheduled, and the Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them is now scheduled to open November of 2016. And that will be set 70 years prior to the events of Harry Potter. Follow the exploits of Newt Scamander, a renowned magizoologist, or experts in magical creatures.
All right.
So that'll happen 2016.
Set your clocks. It's 2.5 years.
You can't buy your tickets yet, but you can stake your plan out as far as who you're going to go see it with.
Yeah, you might not be friends with them in 2.5 years.
That's true. Make some plans now so you can break them 13 times before this movie comes out.
Yeah.
And make some friends now so you have someone to watch it with.
That's a better point. I'm gonna work on that. So more Harry Potter movies. I'm sure the fans are happy about that. You just have to wait a little while for them. Getting into some comic book news for our last two stories. Rumor this week about Zac Efron possibly being involved in some type of Marvel superhero role. The article pointed out two characters in particular. What do you guys think of Zac Efron appearing as a Marvel superhero, Matt?
He could be the part of a number of guys. I never followed his career. He was either like a Disney kid or a music kid. Probably a Disney kid since he's acting. Yeah. So the only thing I ever think of with Zac Efron is the MC Mr. Napkins song F-Bombs. So, like, that's the only association I have with him is the name Zac Fuckron.
The roles they throw out in the article are Daredevil and Ant-Man. I guess I don't know enough about Zac Efron. I haven't seen Neighbors yet, which he appeared on. I know he's made the transition now in the last probably 1.5 to 2 years, kind of away from the typecast he was as a high school. I think it was High School Musical.
Yep.
And he's kind of
That-
broken out of that mold. So I just haven't seen him enough to know what kind of personality he has. So I can't really speak much to this one. What do you think about either Daredevil or Ant-Man, Nate?
Wasn't Ant-Man like Paul Rudd or
Yeah,
something?
I think that was already. Yeah, I thought that was already cast.
Yeah.
Hopefully they go with the other Ant-Man, the younger Paul O'Grady, or Eric O'Grady.
Sure.
But you go.
Right. Yeah. No, I don't know. I liked him in Hairspray. That's like the only movie I've seen him in.
You've seen him in more movies than I have, so.
All right.
And then the other one was an official casting, and that was the confirmation that Channing Tatum would be playing Gambit.
Oh man, in that picture in the article,
Mhm.
he had no neck. It was weird. He was like a big. He had like just a big. I don't even know a lump of a head. It was weird.
Hopefully
He
they
looks
get
like a-
fixed.
Yeah, they need to fix his neck before he can be Gambit.
I don't know if that's possible, but I'm sure it is. But there will be a link in the webpage on the episode post to the story of that one, and it includes a video from Total Film where they're talking about Channing Tatum as Gambit. Do you guys think he fits that character decently enough to pull it off, Nate?
There's no like comparison of him doing a character anywhere near Gambit, so I have no idea.
What is Gambit's personality?
He is a Cajun man and he throws cards. I know him mainly from the show.
I think of him more as a live guy. Like he's more agile. He's very slick.
Yeah. He's like a super ladies man.
I don't know. I think he's like what I think of as a super ladies man, but I think he's really more like he drops a lot of one-liners and a lot of pickup lines. I don't remember him ever getting with a whole lot of
No,
ladies.
yeah. Well, I guess yeah.
He's like a cheesy
He's-
ladies man in my
He's
mind.
like he's very bad at it.
But I mean, he hasn't been used in a lot of comics back when I read a lot of comics, so
Yeah.
I can't say that I know him especially well.
So we'll have to see if Channing Tatum can play that role and pull it off. But a lot of times it seems like we get these superhero films and some of the casting makes you scratch your head or you'd be like, I can't see, that's not my first choice for that guy as that role. But then they seem to pull it off a lot of times. There's a couple directors out there specifically that like to kind of throw some weird casting at us just to change things up, and it sometimes works. So as far as trailer talk goes, even though there wasn't a lot of movie news this week, there was a bunch of trailers that hit the internets. As far as horror films, we got, I believe these are all horror films, VHS Viral, Deliver Us from Evil, and Monsters Dark Continent.
Monsters Dark Continent isn't so much a horror film.
What's that one?
Awkward action film.
Okay.
Really awkward.
Then we had a trailer for The 100-Foot Journey, The Last Sentence, Calvary, Hellion, The Captive, Parts Per Billion, The Kill Team, Gone Girl, a new trailer for Interstellar, and a teaser in all forms of that word for Cinderella, I guess.
Oh my gosh.
We did the thing in CG once.
Look at this shoe. Hey, it's a shoe.
So
Get it?
We could talk about the Cinderella trailer. Can we all agree that looks like the most uncomfortable shoe of all time?
Yeah, it's not so much a slipper as
Yeah.
it is stiletto.
a glass stiletto.
Diamond,
I
right?
mean, I guess we know that there's a Cinderella movie coming now, and we know absolutely nothing about it. Nothing about the
Yeah.
feel, the tone. Disney's going to do a live-action Cinderella film, folks, and I don't think it's going to be like a comedy.
Starring Amy Adams and
Oh, man. That'd be hilarious.
who else? The guy that was the Cyclops from the X-Men movies.
No.
Wait, no, that was Enchanted. I'm sorry.
Any trailers that came out that oh, and there was a new one for Lucy in Transformers 4, which you probably saw if you went to see Godzilla. Um,
Oh man.
but as far as we'll talk about those two after we get through the other ones because we do have some comments probably for the Transformers 4 special trailer that we saw before the Godzilla film. But any of those other ones jump out at you? There was a few that I thought looked pretty good, and we'll talk about Interstellar last.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Nate, talk
Um,
about Calvary.
yeah, I don't know. That looks like a movie I could get into. It's got lots of people talking in Irish accents and guns and clergymen and priests and whatnot.
It seemed interesting though. Like the priest is definitely like not your typical priest. Like for all intents and purposes, it looks like he's playing an innocent priest, but then he's also carrying a gun.
Yeah.
So
Well, he's got to protect himself, right?
yeah, and I like
That's
him
like
as
the
an
plot.
actor.
Oh,
Gleason?
what has he been in?
Brendan Gleeson. He was in Gangs of New York.
Whoa. Well, I don't remember him.
Was he in anything I saw?
Nate, he was the big guy with the thing that had the notches on it, I believe.
Oh, good.
That became the sheriff temporarily. But anyway,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
don't say anything else about that. But I don't know. I thought that one. I didn't know anything about Calvary, but I thought that looked somewhat interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
What else?
Well, I was watching all these trailers, and like I was like, oh, I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like that. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go with something I might like. Calvary. I like mounted combat, so I'm not gonna lie. I was very upset when I was watching that trailer. That said, I think it's probably gonna be in my mind like Dom Hemsey was, where it's like, I don't think I want to see this, and then like 3 weeks later, I'm like, maybe I do want to see that,
And then it's gone.
and then it never happened.
And Dom Hemingway fades into the distance. Go ahead, Nate.
VHS Viral. Matt, you were like, I have no idea what's going on in that movie. And it
No.
looks to me like it's a collection of tiny horror stories.
That's not the first, right? There's a series of those, I believe.
Is it?
Well, it opened up with in 2012 we did this, and in 2013 we did this. So if it's not like the third or fourth one in a series,
Yeah,
it
I'm
doesn't
pretty sure
make
it is.
sense. That said, like it just looked like, hey, we took some shaky cam like we had in Blair Witch and Paranormal, and then we took some weird videos like we had in that The Ring, and we spliced it into a movie. Are you gonna jump? Jump cuts.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a creepy face.
It was
Oh, that's an arm.
anthology horror film that the first one was in 2012, sequel released in 2013. So they're taking their time and making sure they do good films.
It's that whole yearly franchise debate.
Exactly. What else on the list that you guys saw, Nate? Anything else?
What was Hellion about?
That was just a kid that was riding the dirt bike that like
Oh yeah, no.
I had no interest in that
I'm
one.
good.
And then we had Captive, which you can just add that to the anthology series known as the Taken films.
Yeah. The 100-Foot Journey is a Steven Spielberg Oprah production.
I actually thought that looked somewhat decent.
Yeah.
I think that
It's
one
from the
might
same
be
person who did Chocolat.
of all of the movies that we watched today, or the trailers. I think that's the one that interests me the most.
Yeah. Well, probably Calvary for me, but yeah.
I like.
It's not.
I
It
like
doesn't look
Chocolat,
terrible
so
at all.
I will watch that one probably, and I've never seen that guy before, so I'm interested to see him. He looked like he was doing a pretty good job. I actually liked a couple of the trailers, so I had a different opinion from you guys on this set of trailers because I am a sucker for like movies about the end of the world or some type of like disease gone crazy or like how are we going to survive when this epidemic spreading. So parts per billion actually is something that I don't need to see it in the theater or anything, but it's just like I like that genre of film. I like to see how they're going to somehow stop it or survive. So parts per billion looked interesting to me in a way. And go ahead.
I like post-apocalypse movies. I don't like apocalypse movies.
Yeah.
So like
it doesn't have to be it
after.
doesn't have to be apocalypse or pre or post or during it or anything. I just like the whole epidemic like setup.
Okay.
Matt.
Huh.
Matt, you and I need to watch the two end of the world comedies. This Is the End and The World's End.
Okay.
They're both great apocalypse movies.
You need to watch Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End.
Oh. Oh, yeah.
And
you're
I
right.
Did that.
I am becoming a little bit more interested in Gone Girl as the weeks go by. I wasn't. I know Dan was big on it when we kind of talked about our films most looking forward to for the year. He mentioned that pretty high on his list, and I didn't really have much interest at the time, but as weeks and months go by, I'm getting a little more interested about that film. And before we only had a little teaser for Interstellar, and now this time we got an actual trailer. I'm a huge fan of Matthew McConaughey. I know, Nate, you're not.
It's not that I'm not a fan. I just haven't seen him in enough films, and I haven't had the time to appreciate him if I choose to after seeing his movies.
That was one of the films that was very high on both Dan and I's list for looking forward to in 2014. It was in the top 5, I think, for both of us. And this is the first trailer that we actually get an idea of somewhat about what the film's going to be about, other than just space. Because the first trailer was just Matthew McConaughey doing a voiceover, which was pretty cool, but it really told us nothing. And you guys don't seem like you were very interested in this trailer, but I thought it looked pretty good.
It looks interesting.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go see it in theaters probably, unless it's there's something else cool coming out that week.
Yeah, I'm just a sucker for sci-fi films, and especially if they don't star Tom Cruise. So I'll definitely be going to see that. But go ahead.
Oh, I like the idea of like I feel like a movie like this hasn't been done too much, where like we need to get off the Earth. We don't know where we're going.
Right.
Movie.
Do
Like,
they
that
not
seems
know where
like-
they're going?
It didn't seem like it in the trailer. The trailer, it's like the Earth isn't inhabitable anymore. We need to get off. Interstellar travel has to happen. We're just gonna go, and then they go.
It looked cool, like they were actually going into like those almost like a stasis pod type deal.
Yeah.
Um,
So it's like, do they find a place? Do
Oh,
they
I
not?
mean, Christopher Nolan is pretty good at some of the stuff he does.
There was a really nice, like his effects in Inception were really great and creative. Not so much like how the effects in like Godzilla were great, where it was just like, yes, that's how it would look. It was like they were doing very creative things with their effects. And this had a couple of shots in the trailer where it was very interesting. The how they portrayed space, like space travel, and I don't know. I'd like to see it just for that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it looks pretty interesting. But we all saw a couple similar trailers right before Godzilla. A couple that I have no interest in whatsoever. We talked about it before, but Lucy, I think that's like 2 different films being mashed up into one, and I have no interest in it. And Tom Cruise generic science fiction film, I don't even know what the names of them are anymore. I don't know why he keeps trying to do them, because they keep not being successful. And this one's going to, again, not be successful because it's time to go against a lot of big blockbuster summer films. So we won't talk about those as much, but there was an extended Transformers 4 trailer that I think we all had some comments about. Nate, what was your reaction to the interviews they were doing with Mark Wahlberg, etc.?
Oh God, they had some really awkward things where a guy would be talking about Michael Bay and just being like, "Yeah, I really liked working with Michael Bay." It was like super edited and weird.
It's like they took like 3 sentences that the guy said and then made him sound like he said something good about Michael Bay.
Yeah, it was.
And then there was the one where he literally says something about like, I really like working with such a good like visual person and storyteller.
Yeah, like.
And I just looked at
such a
Matt and I was
great
like, did they just
storyteller.
put storyteller and Michael Bay in the same sentence?
Michael Bay is not a good storyteller. I did it.
But I don't know, that trailer, those little pieces did nothing to get me more excited about that film. Although I don't know exactly what they're doing with Optimus Prime and Grimlock.
Like, it's gonna be like the real story where Optimus Prime kicks the crap out of Grimlock, and then somehow Grimlock can beat Devastator, but Optimus can't.
I don't know. Mark Wahlberg's excited about it, I guess.
I know you want to like it so much,
I
so
do, but
let's hope it's a good one.
I've been burned by Michael Bay so many times that I can't. Like, he just likes to make things explode. So I think there'll be a lot of that, and hopefully I can
Yeah.
actually tell what's going on in the fights this time. And hopefully there's
Seriously.
not 24 comic relief characters.
I got friends that literally will defend to the last man the first Transformers movies.
See, I am the guy on the network that always tries to defend the second one because I don't get, like, to me, all three of them are basically the same film. Although they try to get some stuff a little bit better as we go through the three films, and they try to start making it so that you can tell the difference between the Transformers when they're fighting. Like, they add color and they add a few more solid panels, so it's not just jagged edges of metal everywhere. So like, they do adjust some stuff as they go through, but everybody always wants to, like, even the fans of this franchise always still hate the second one, and I don't get there's not that much difference between the second one and the first one, or the second one and the third one. They're all very similar, and I'm just hoping that this one's different, but it's not going to be. Anyway, get off my soapbox.
They don't know if different sells as well.
Yeah, they know what they're doing sells for some reason, because kids like Transformers, and it looks cool to see big giant robots on the screen, and apparently people don't care about story. So whatever, let's create some more characters, even though there was a couple hundred characters to choose from. Yeah. Man, that's one of my pet peeves about reboots and remakes and stuff being transferred from, like, past cartoons or TV shows. Like, if you have a library of dozens and dozens of characters, there's really no need to be like, I have to create a new character for my film. It's just stupid. So yeah, let's end on that positive note, and we'll be right back to talk about Godzilla. Thanks for sticking with us. It is time for the main attraction. And before we get to Godzilla talk, do a real quick discussion of any films that we have seen in the previous week. I believe there has not been very many of them. We watched, what did we watch on Friday?
The three of us all together watched Batman 66.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man.
And you guys watched which film before that?
We watched Pacific Rim.
Oh, yeah, Pacific Rim. And Matt, that was the first time you had seen Pacific Rim. What was your opinions of that film?
Well, it wasn't bad. I don't think if I had gone and seen it in theaters, I would not have regretted it. I could say that pretty comfortably.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't exactly what I was expecting. The story, all of the story was interesting concepts and takes. I guess, I had just been entirely media blind to it, so I didn't know that they were gonna do things. Like, I didn't know that they were gonna be like, well, we're decommissioning the robots, and then they're using the robots, or anything like that. I do like that. I don't know, a lot of it. Like, they managed to do they had a female and a male protagonist, but they didn't really do a love story.
No, yeah.
Like, I kind of like that. Although, I mean, like, it kind of became that towards the end. Like, I mean, I think that you can have a male and a female working close together, and they don't always have to fall in love. Sometimes you can have female friends, guys. And I liked that it wasn't, But I mean, if they'd had a love story, I wouldn't have been like, well, it was bogged down by a love story. Unless it was bogged down by a love story, but like, I just appreciate the fact that they just didn't. And I liked the designs on the monsters and the robots, but it needed more monsters and more robot. Well, maybe not more monsters, but more robots and more time with the monsters and robots.
Really?
There's
Yeah,
definitely some comparisons that can be drawn when we get into our Godzilla talk with a
Yeah.
movie like Pacific Rim that's about, obviously big giant monsters that are threatening people. Um, Obviously, a different angle with the robots, etc. But some things that maybe Godzilla could have done that they did in Pacific Rim that would have helped a little bit. And then I had not seen the Batman '66 film. I had seen bits and pieces of maybe an episode or two of the actual show, the TV series, but I'd never seen the film, and I did actually enjoy that a lot. Um, as campy and cheesy as it is, obviously, and as much as maybe I don't have the same affinity for Adam West as a lot of people might, I still think he plays the role decently. Um, and that's just a lot of fun. It's an easy movie to have a lot of fun with. And you guys both had the Joker on your list of villains. Did one of you have the Penguin as well?
I did. Yeah.
That's what I thought. And I also like the Riddler. I like all the bad guys in this film actually. Um, and like Nate, I love how everything's labeled, um, like ridiculously labeled. And there's just a lot of fun stuff. And if you don't know what type of film you're getting into, you will know in the opening scene with the shark, because that is exactly that sets the tone perfectly for the rest of the film.
It's so
Oh,
perfect.
that plus the who could possibly be at up to the scheme, and they just walk through how it could be any one of them because of reasons that don't make any sense at all.
It happened
C.
at sea.
It
C
happened
is
in
for
the
Catwoman.
happened in the sea.
Like, oh, that shark was pulling my leg, like a Joker would.
Something seems fishy.
How they
Like a penguin. What?
how they settle or solve every riddle is just so ridiculous.
What weighs 6 ounces and is deadly?
A ballpoint banana. Wait, no, that's wrong.
Oh, it's like a sparrow with a shotgun or something like that.
It's a sparrow with a machine gun.
Like what?
It's
What
yellow.
are your two favorite lines from that film, Matt?
Oh, I think it happened at C for Catwoman, and then what was the other one? I think I tweeted it.
Some days it's just really hard to get rid of a bomb.
Some days it's hard to get rid of a bomb. No, some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
All right, yeah.
That whole scene with him running around is ridiculous. If you have not seen the Batman '66 movie and you're listening to a podcast on a network called the Geekcast Radio Network, you need to fix that immediately, because everybody that likes geeky things and comic books and the new wave of Marvel, DC, etc. films, you need to go back and see some of the stuff from the past, and that is one that cannot be missed. So go
Learn
see
yourselves.
'66 Batman.
I could say, like, with an entirely straight face, that it is my favorite Batman movie. Maybe I don't like it for the same reasons I like other Batman movies, but that one is the one I get the most entertainment, and it's the only one I own on DVD.
I think that's a good point. Its entertainment value is really high, not like production value, and not story wise, but entertainment
Costume-wise.
definitely. Yeah.
All right, so that brings us to the actual film that all three of us saw this week in the theater, which would be Godzilla. Matt and I went separately than Nate, but wanted to start the conversation with our experience in the theater. It doesn't have to do with anything that actually happened on screen. But Nate, how was your movie-going experience this time?
I had a guy in my theater sitting right next to me. Just him and his girlfriend or whatever were just talking throughout all of the trailers, and I was like, oh no, this is not going to be good. And then the movie starts, and the first 10 minutes they're talking all the way through it. I had to actually get up and tell them, can you please not talk, please? Just like that. And they didn't.
How full was your theater?
It was way too full. I went on a Sunday at 9:30 in the morning. It's way too full for that. People need to be at home, sleeping, doing whatever. I went there specifically that I didn't have to see people, because I don't like people in my movie theaters.
Did anyone give you? Was anybody appreciative that you told the guy to shut up?
No, I don't think so.
You talked to your fiance?
Maybe there was a couple in front of them,
Mhm.
like a row ahead, that were I could tell were like visibly annoyed but weren't doing anything about it. But yeah,
That's awesome.
my my
Um,
my uh, my my fiance thought I was a cool dude after that. I don't
you
know.
got major points, and they actually shut
Yeah,
up for the entire rest of the movie, right?
they did. And oh man, also same guy. During the Lucy trailer, there's a point where Lucy is like, doing brain stuff or whatever,
She uses the
and
force.
like she uses the force and like drops like 5 guys on the ground just with her brain power. And he's like, "No, that is amazing! I've never seen that before."
Oh no.
No, it was ridiculous. He laughed way too much at all the trailers for the How I Met Your Mother, How to Train Your Dragon, How to Train Your Dragon. He was like, there's a part where a sheep comes into the picture and goes bah because it's a sheep, and he's like, "Ha ha ha, sheep." It was so bad.
Our theater had a couple of like really over the top. We're all laughing at sheep and stuff moments too.
Oh,
And then they had what Nate and we went at different times, different days, etc. He went at 9:30 on a Sunday morning, and we went at what time in the afternoon on a Saturday?
3:15.
Yeah, 3:15 on a Saturday afternoon. Apparently, both those times are not the times to go if you want to avoid people clapping in your theater.
oh my god.
Oh, dude, don't clap in the theater. They can't hear you.
Nobody can hear you.
Doubly so if they're Godzilla, because he doesn't even exist.
Like I can understand like maybe if you're in a very large group of like-minded people and you all cheer at a moment and everyone's participating because that's what the deal is. Like if you go to like Rocky Horror Picture Show and you're doing stuff there, but when you're at a theater and you just see like a fight happen and something happens in it and you're like, yeah, and you're the only one, that is like the worst thing you can do. Never even attempt to do that.
There's only a few scenarios in which it is acceptable to verbally emote in a theater.
Yeah.
And that is number one, if you're actually at like a premiere with people that were involved in the picture, like the actors or behind the scenes people are in the theater with you, because then they can hear you applaud them. That's
Yeah.
okay. In a horror film, when something happens that scares you, you can react. You can jump. You could have a gasp if something happens that you're not expecting. That's okay,
Right.
because you can't help that. If you're in like a tearjerker and you cry, as long as you're not crying obnoxiously, I guess that's okay. And occasionally on a real good comedy, you can laugh at funny moments.
Well, I mean, at a comedy, you should be able to laugh, but
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, you should laugh if it's a funny thing, not if it's something stupid like a sheep in How to Train Your Dragon. But clapping is one of the verbal things that it should be banned. You should not be able to clap.
it's a no-no. It's a no-no.
Yeah, no clapping or cheering. Like, nobody can hear you. That's like yelling at your TV screen about something.
Yeah.
And they clapped multiple times in our movie. It wasn't just once. Like they cheered or clapped or did something at two different scenes. One towards the end and one a little bit prior to that, I believe. Didn't they, Matt? They did one when like the climax.
Yeah.
But didn't they do it again when one of the other monsters got its?
Oh, I don't know.
Is it that or when there was like a smaller moment of people being happy, I guess. But I don't know. It's just.
I want to add one thing when you're making your little list of what you can and can't do in a theater, because we're allowed to just do that because we're on the internet and we're allowed to have opinions. But I would also say like the moment that they clapped, if you'd gone like yeah or like awesome, like that's acceptable. Clapping has a specific purpose that is not being served.
Yeah.
And it's Godzilla.
Yeah.
You said he doesn't understand clapping anyway.
No, I'm really curious. I kind of want to go off topic for just a second. Did either of you go to any of the premieres of the Star Wars movies, the new ones?
Yeah.
The first showing of the episode 1.
How was the atmosphere of that audience, if you remember correctly?
Fantastic.
So were they like when it was like bah, Star Wars? Were they like, yeah, Star Wars? Or was it
Not
just
quite,
like,
but I mean, it was stuff that like that's a completely different animal. First of all,
I know. Well, I was just really curious. I was thinking about that as you guys were talking.
like when you're dressed, when everybody in the theater is dressed like characters in
Yeah.
the franchise, like you're gonna
See,
expect some stuff. And like when it's the first time in 30 years that you're hearing like that music. And I mean, I know that they had like little special releases, et cetera, whatever. But like when it's a brand new thing and you hear like the opening music or the scrolling stuff and stuff like that, like,
mm-hmm.
you have
Yep.
to react to that.
Yeah, and it just, I mean, the Rocky Horror Picture Show is definitely like one of the best examples of like a weird community of going to see a movie, but I don't know. For me, going to see a movie is not preferable to watching it at my house alone. If that's weird, I don't know. Whatever.
Wow, that's interesting.
I always prefer to go see it in theater, but I usually don't go to crowded theaters too much.
Yeah.
And when I have it, there hasn't really been too many experiences. Like there's probably been, I don't know how many movies I went to see in the theater last year, but there was probably only one or two out of whatever the 50 that I went to. There was probably one or two that I was dealing with somebody that was annoying me. Um, but I usually can avoid it for the most part. But I don't know. I think it's too. It's a different dynamic. If you're like, if there's only three of you in the theater, obviously
Yeah.
the rules change. And if it's like jam packed and there's not a single open seat, then you're in a different dynamic. And if it's just like 25 of you, then it's a completely different dynamic again. So I don't know. I guess you can be different levels of enthusiastic the key is that you're not annoying people
Yeah.
Yeah,
or not doing stuff that makes absolutely no sense.
It's
movies
weird.
are expensive. Like, don't annoy someone who just dropped a load on a movie, man.
I did have
Yeah.
one kid last. I did have one kid last year that I literally scared the crap out of, because he threw. Uh, there was just like a bunch of young kids, like probably like 10, 9, 11 years old or whatever, and they threw like M&Ms or Skittles or something, and
Hmm.
they hit myself or Joel in the head. Um,
Jeez.
oh no, one landed. No, they didn't hit us in the head. It landed in my lap, and
And you're like, haha, free
no,
Skittles.
but I had it in my hand still because I was gonna go throw it away, and the movie got over, and the kid went in the bathroom, and
Oh
it's
God.
gonna sound weird, but I went in the bathroom as well, and he was washing his hands, and I came up right next to him and put the thing that he threw at me like right on the counter next to him, and he like he looked at me, and I think he thought I was gonna kill him.
And you're like super tall. You're like 7 foot tall.
I just like slammed it down like right on the counter, and I didn't even say a word, and I just like gave him a look, and he like ran out of the bathroom, and that was satisfying to me.
That's awesome.
But that was one of the two times that someone was annoying me in the theater last year. Back to Godzilla. Um, what was your mindset going in to see Godzilla? Were you excited? Not excited? What were you hoping for or not hoping for, Nate?
Um, I'm not a huge Godzilla fan. Like I've seen a couple of them before this, and I watched one last night. I watched Godzilla versus Mothra, just to get in the mindset of it, I guess, and kind of like have the feeling of like, you know, the old Godzilla, and try to compare the two, because I know that they're there was supposed to be a lot of references and stuff in this one, so I watched that one, and then I went to go see this one with an open mindset. I had no negative feelings towards it, and I was hearing a lot of good things. So
Yeah, I too was hearing a lot of good stuff. I had a few friends that were like absolutely ridiculously excited to see this film and were saying that this was the number one film the whole year that they were looking forward to. And I guess I just don't share that mindset because I don't ever get too excited about Godzilla, King Kong, giant monster type things. I don't know why. It just doesn't.
see, I got really excited over Pacific Rim when it first came out because it looked like it had some style to it, and I guess this movie, it looked like it was devoid of style.
I
Well, in all the trailers.
I tried to go in with an open mind, but I was very skeptical of how good people were saying the film was.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting it to be that good, but I was trying to go in with an open mind. Matt, what about you?
I was going in hopeful. I like Nate. I've seen 4 or 5 Godzilla movies in the past, and every one of them I loved. Like I've
Wow.
not watched an old Godzilla movie and not been happy at the end of it. I mean, there are some of them that take you for twists and turns you didn't expect. Things that you want to happen that don't happen. But I've always enjoyed it, and so going to this one, I'm like, if they follow just a few of the old tropes, we'll be good. Like I'll have nothing bad to say. So I went in very hopeful. I did right before I left. Um, a mutual friend of Nate and I, John, was at my sister's party that was being held, and I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna go see Godzilla," and he's like, "I watched it on Thursday. Spoiler alert, it's spectacular," which was a very flamboyant way to say that, and so I had that in my mind when I left. But yeah, I was hopeful.
All right, and before we get into what caused this, what was your initial reaction leaving the theater, Nate?
My initial reaction leaving the theater was that was a good last 10 minutes. That should have been the whole movie.
What about you, Matt?
That's pretty accurate. Yeah, it was like that. It ended on a good note.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was similar. I mean, I left thinking, that was fun. That's a good old summer, popcorn flick or whatever you want to call it. They got Godzilla right type thing, but I kind of left questioning what everybody else saw that I was apparently missing. That
Yeah.
that made it so spectacular.
Like I have big issues with the story structure.
Let's let's
Like
let's investigate that.
like it starts off pretty slow. You don't see Godzilla. I don't know. It, do we need to throw up a spoiler warning at all? But because I feel like spoiling Godzilla fights monsters in this movie isn't a
No, I don't think
spoiler.
that's spoiling anything.
Like I don't know. You don't see Godzilla for like an hour into the movie, and then when he does show up, they keep all right, here's Godzilla and here's a monster. Now they're gonna fight. Cutaway, and then they cut away and they show like some like the kid is watching it on television, and the mom's like, "Turn off that TV! I told you." And it's just like, okay, what happened to the monster fight? Then they show the aftermath of the monster fight, and it's like, what happened to the monster fight? That's why I came to a Godzilla movie.
I think it's safe to say that there was, if you clocked it, that there was more screen time showing the destruction and the ruined wreckage of towns than there was the actual fighting.
I
You
mean,
could if you clocked it, there was more of anything in this movie but the fighting.
seriously, there was more Bryan Cranston than Godzilla.
Who's
And there wasn't
that?
enough of that either.
He's
The
Breaking Bad.
He's the dad.
Oh, he's Malcolm in the Middle.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, there needed to be more of that guy.
Yeah, there needed to
No,
be more.
well, I mean,
the good things of this film they didn't show enough of,
yeah, definitely.
and the bad things of this film they showed way too much of.
Let's get into the bad things then.
All right, bad things.
um,
Can I
I,
give you a second to get all yours together because I know you had a bunch that you were ready to talk about. I had two main bad things that kind of hit me right in the beginning, and one is first of all I admit that I am not scientifically. I'm pretty scientifically ignorant, I guess. I hated science in school, so I tried to avoid learning about it too much. But I question a lot of the science behind this film, and I'm not saying you need science in a Godzilla film, but I just feel like there were certain characters that were near a lot of explosions. There were certain characters that were near a lot of very loud monsters and stuff happening, and nobody was ever impaired in any way. Like there was nobody that like it didn't seem like anybody broke a bone as far as the main characters. None of them like lost the ability to hear. None of them like they pretty much were unscathed throughout the entire film, and I thought that was kind of unrealistic.
There were 2 moments with the main character where it's like, yeah, he lost his hearing for 10 seconds, but yeah.
I just feel like some of
yeah,
those things would have totally knocked some people deaf. And I had a minor nitpick since I answer phones a lot that the phone that she answered in the one place that was on hold, there was no lights blinking or no
yeah.
lights.
She pressed two.
Just like
She
Yeah,
just
yeah.
pressed two. It was weird.
Wasn't even a.
Oh, and oh, sorry, I forgot the one thing right at the beginning. Uh, Spoiler alert, I guess, but not really. The kid has like prepared like a birthday thing for the dad and like a card or whatever, and the mom's explaining to the dad like, oh, he like made you a birthday sign, and he's like, oh gosh, what are we gonna do? Blah 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 blah. Then like a minute later, she's like, you know what today is? And he's like, what? She's like, it's your birthday. He's like, oh. Like, whoa, what?
You've already addressed that you forgot it was your birthday.
We already talked about the kid making you a birthday sign, and then a minute later you've forgotten that it's your birthday?
That was a little weird in the dialogue department, but
Go ahead, Nate.
like I have less nitpicky things and more just like structural things wrong with this movie.
Yeah.
Like it dwells so much on its human characters that I was going in and I was a little worried that it was going to do this exact same thing where they don't relish in the fact that they have this awesome technology to make a really cool monster movie, and they just stick to their main characters to drive the plot and everything. But when the plot is as paper thin as it actually was, like it was so boring. I shouldn't say boring. It was just not as entertaining as it could have been to get to the really cool monster fight at the very end of the film.
Who do you think it is in Hollywood? Do you think it's the directors, the studios, the producers? Who is afraid to make a big robot or a big monster film without humans? Or without as much humans? Like, it seems like every time we get one of these types of just like big, huge, like these are going to be some massive robots or monsters or whatever, it's like we have to just cram a human element down your throat. I think people are afraid that like they think they have to do that so that we can relate to something, and I don't need that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it would be really shallow if they didn't, because it would just be like you're going to see the spectacle, but
they could do a Transformer story and have an actual story and have character development and have no humans.
Well, no, definitely. Like for Transformers, the Transformers have personalities.
Right.
They can drive the plot. They can provide everything you need in a plot, and they're giant robots. But for like a monster movie where no one speaks, you kind of need something.
Whoa. Godzilla totally goes.
Oh God, I'm gonna have to edit that.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
Well, I'm not saying to the same extent. I'm not saying that you can completely eliminate them from this film, but why is there always the need to like shove this actual human story part of it? Like, I can have humans in there and they can talk and they can help progress the plot and the story.
Yeah.
But I don't need to know about their family life.
And like, I hate, like, it's inevitable, and I'm so glad we watched it on Friday. I have to make comparison to a Pacific Rim, because that was an example where they had human characters in a giant monster robots fighting movie, and they didn't spend too much time on the characters. They spent a lot of time fighting, but then also the characters were interesting enough that it actually made for a good film. The characters in Godzilla are completely bland, in my opinion. The army guy, the mom, and the kid, those three characters I don't care at all about. I didn't care at all about. Bryan Cranston, I liked him, and then
Ken Watanabe.
Ken Watanabe, I liked him. And he like I felt like he had a cool thing going on with his assistant or whoever that was. Like, it could have been interesting if it was just them two. I don't know. Maybe
the interesting
more, maybe,
human, the chances for interesting, like, well, you're right. Pacific Rim, they actually had character relationships between characters that were interesting and that progressed or changed from the beginning of the film to the end of the film.
Yes.
Here, no character changed from the beginning to the end outside of Bryan Cranston somewhat being in that crazy state for a little bit, like a hermit in his house.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was like crazy, and then he was like, "I'm right, yes."
But I mean,
there is a Godzilla.
The main character did not really change from the beginning to the end, except for accepting what his dad was doing. His wife didn't change, the kid didn't change. Like nobody really progressed or changed or developed throughout the film. And you're right, they had chances to do some stuff. Like there could have been an interesting storyline with Ken Watanabe's character and his assistant trying to do something to help or trying to impact this or go against or kind of like subvert the army that was just, we want your opinion. What's your opinion? This. Oh, well, we don't want your opinion anymore. Like,
Yeah.
they could have done something with that, but like every chance they had to do something like that, they just ignored it completely.
And I just have to bring this up. There's a point where Ken Watanabe, he like the army is talking to him. They're like, "What do you think that that Godzilla will actually help us?" And he's like, "Let the monsters fight." And then it cuts to monsters fighting, and then immediately cuts away again. And it was like, oh my god, I got so frustrated at that moment. I looked up at the sky, just like, please, someone change this movie into a better one.
That's brutal.
Matt, you have any problems?
I mean, it was, like, yeah, it had a bland story. It felt more like it was Army, the movie. Like, this is how Army responds to Godzilla attacks.
It's like Battleship.
Like, don't
They actually,
even.
there was actually a news article I was reading where like the government said that if Godzilla existed, the U.S. Army, we actually could take him out, and here's how we would do it.
Oh man,
It wasn't always Army too. Transformers, like the Battleship monsters. This one, it's like we always got to bring in the Army. I guess who else?
I guess that's. Yeah, it's like the most logical choice, but it's
It's
never
like-
like a cool army. It's like just the army.
the
And I don't
stereotype
mean that
army.
the army. I don't want to go on record saying the army isn't cool. The army's totally cool, but it's like, hey, you're doing a science fiction movie. Have like a super secret, cool like sect of the army that has like jetpacks and shit. I don't know.
It's always
Like-
it's always the stereotype Army. Like this is the general that won't listen to anybody because he's in the Army and they don't listen to people apparently, or
Yeah.
something random.
yeah. I do like. I absolutely love that Ken Watanabe's the first one to say Godzilla. Like he fucking nails it. Here, Gojira. And it's like, yes! Like, that was the first time I was happy in that movie.
Although, Kevin, weren't you saying something about every time they said Godzilla? Was that you?
No.
Okay.
Ken Watanabe gets, like, the first 5 times. Like, no American says it for, like, 5, 10 times in. And he's just throwing it out there. And that was, like, my favorite part of that movie. Ken Watanabe
Just that
saying
one
Godzilla.
line,
Just him saying Godzilla every time made me happy. And I don't know, maybe you can call me racist or jingoistic. I mean, I don't. It doesn't come from a place of hate. I just love the way it sounds.
Yeah,
I'm
I
an
do
action
too.
guy.
I like that. I liked the beginning of the film where we had Bryan Cranston, Ken Watanabe, Gary Chalk was in there. There was a lot of people like that have done voice work that I recognized immediately as on-screen people, and I was like, yeah. I do also question. I didn't bring this up in the stuff that I didn't like because not necessarily something I didn't like. I don't get the point though of why they had to have the main character on the train with a little Japanese kid.
Yeah, the short round scene, that was so weird.
That part I actually didn't mind that much. I mean, it gave him something to do in between. I mean, because they were focusing so much on him, it actually like gave him something more to do other than just like fall and be scared. He had to protect the kid, but I don't know. I guess it shows that he's a good guy. That's all that scene does.
What were some of your favorite parts though, Nate, overall, so we're not completely negative?
Yeah, I don't want to say that this is a terrible movie or anything. It's just it could have been way better. The fighting was amazing. The Godzilla versus the monsters. You know, what do they call his breath? His awesome breath.
I don't know.
I forget.
It's electric breath.
He has a specific name for that, like mega breath or something.
I'll go to the internet.
Go for it, Matt. Yeah, no, just really cool. But
I like the look of Godzilla. I think they got that down.
Oh
right.
yeah,
A lot of people were.
Yeah,
saying
they didn't try to change him or anything too much.
He
they,
looked.
They really.
Is
Go ahead.
Godzilla he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, like he looked menacing. He looked somewhat mysterious, but like when he was actually standing up, like that was an epic look. Like I thought that looked really cool. I know some people, Matt, we were talking about like said that he was a little too like chubby in the film. But I actually
Mm,
really like what they did with the look for him. I actually prefer the look of Godzilla compared to the look of those other things that they didn't really ever give a name.
Muto.
oh,
Yeah, I don't. That
yeah, the
was stupid.
Mudos.
Um, but I don't know. Their look was much more hard to like get a grip on. Like sometimes it was hard to see what was actually going on with them unless it was from a faraway shot. Like there was some like more wide angle shots that like you could actually see them and kind of get it. But like a lot of the close up stuff, I couldn't really tell what they were doing. But maybe that's just me and I'm old.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't very memorable character designs.
Yeah, and it just was hard
They
to tell
were.
like what is that his leg? Is that his what's going on? That's his head that kind of looks like it's a robot. Um,
Oh man.
but I also did like all of the scenes at the beginning when they're like underneath investigating like and seeing all the like fossil type stuff. I liked the beginning part of the movie, and I liked the fighting at the end. I don't know if I really cared for the whole middle section.
Just
Oh
to
no.
answer everyone's questions, it's called Atomic Breath,
Okay.
and then also Godzilla is male in dub in the English dubs. It is always referred to as male. Except for in the 1998 movie where it lays eggs, but in all
Oh,
of the Japanese movies, it's referred to as an it. Yep.
actually, in the 1998 movie with Matthew Broderick, that one now is an actual. They took that Godzilla and made it canon, and they renamed it just Zilla.
Yeah,
So now they had a movie where Godzilla fought Zilla. I think.
nice. Did it
That's
Yeah,
kill
funny.
the fuck out of it? Because fuck
I
that thing.
it probably should have.
The whole baby scene was kind of creepy too. I thought that like she was carrying like maybe one or two evil Modu monsters. I was not prepared for like the
The
dozens.
evacuation of
Well,
eggs.
it's a bug, and bugs don't have a good lifespan. Well,
Yeah,
like
those
they
did.
lose a lot. Like they have a high percentage of loss of young. So
Yeah.
dropping 1,000 eggs and only getting 5 or 6 wouldn't be entirely impossible.
Yeah, but I'm just saying like I wasn't prepared for that level of you can't let this happen. Like,
Do you guys remember the scene where like the monsters, like the male brings over an atomic bomb and is like, "Here you go, honey," and then she like rubs it on her belly.
Yeah, she's like, "Hey, this is going to the kids," and then like they rub faces and they're like kissing.
yeah.
It was really weird. I mean, it was cool. It was like that wouldn't have. That part's cool. I don't know. I liked it.
I mean, a lot of the film looked good. There wasn't too many things that like looked off or like visually were off or nothing that really looked goofy or cheesy to me. It was just story wise was a little too thin, and I wish they would have spent like you guys said there were some weird cut that went away from fighting or that skipped over stuff, and it's like that was the stuff that we wanted to see.
Yeah, definitely. Like it wouldn't be so bad if the story was still that thin, but it had way more monster fighting.
Right.
You know.
Do one thing or the other. If
But
you're going to spend time on a human element and a human story, make it interesting, or skip that and just give us a lot more fighting.
yeah, I would have been happy either way if the characters were more interesting or if there was more fighting.
So,
But as it is, I can't really recommend this one.
well,
Except,
overall, what would you give it a rating overall, 1 through 5?
Oh, we're already at that point.
Well, he was starting to say that he couldn't recommend it, so I was ready for his score.
Okay.
do you have anything else to say, Matt?
No, I mean I liked Elizabeth Olsen. I want.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
no, dude. If they don't give us, if Days, not Days of Future Past, if Age of Ultron does not give me an Elizabeth Olsen action figure, I'm gonna be very upset. That's going out to you, Hasbro.
I
After,
did like her. I did like her. I
after,
wish she had more to work with.
Yeah,
yeah,
like, and I don't know if it was the actors as much as it were the writing and the directing, where they just didn't have anything to work with. They
like
had like no, they had no meat to their characters.
It's like she
Sounds
had the
weird.
most unreliable husband who would, every 20 hours, hey, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, never does it. And then she had a kid that just did not act like a human being would act in any of the situations the kid was put in. So it's
Just
like
like,
she's
there's
surrounded by the
giant
weirdest thing.
monsters.
Yeah, dude, he just like stared
His
absently at the
like
camera at every scene. That was that kid.
maybe that was the robot we needed. Just like it turns goo to a giant robot fight Godzilla.
But I'm glad you brought that up because I do think she was worth the time. I hope I see her in more roles that give her stuff to work with because she seems like she's the best
Yeah.
actress in the family. Maybe
Yeah,
not saying
definitely.
the other two. The one has done some interesting stuff since her childhood days, and I think the other one's got a whole bunch of personal issues going on. Um, but yeah, I think a lot of people didn't even know that Elizabeth Olsen was existed. So I think they do now.
Yeah, that's
Nate,
nice.
what do you think?
Come to me last. I gotta
Matt,
think about
what do
this
you
one.
think?
Okay, so if I give every Godzilla movie I've ever seen like a 4, because they're all awesome, because I like giving another movie that's totally not related or tangentially related rating, because we always seem to do that. Um, then I would give this Godzilla movie honestly 2.5. Like, wait till it comes out on DVD, guys.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It is one of those films that maybe is better to see on the big screen, maybe, but only if you can see it relatively cheaply on the big screen. Um, but most people have big TVs now, I guess, so it doesn't really matter. So whatever. I'm right with you. I'm teeter tottering between 2.5 and 3. Um, oof, I'd probably go with 2.5 just because outside of the short scenes of fighting, there's not a lot I would need to rewatch or have fun viewing. I don't know if this has a lot of multiple watch potential. So I'll agree with you on the 2.5, actually. Nate?
Uh, this one's it's really hard for me because like what I would do, and I kind of really want to get into this is the fan editing. Like I would go in and edit out a lot of the major characters, and then just like have those big fights and or just have the fight scenes, and it would be a way better movie. But man, it's so hard to get to the last bits. Like I would find it for cheap on DVD. Don't pay full price for a DVD, and then like fast forward to the good bits. I mean I don't know. I don't think I'll ever want to watch this movie again. Probably like a 1.5. 1.5.
Wow.
Dun, dun,
I
dun. I think that's the lowest rating we've given out so far to a film.
It's
wait
definitely
in
of
like
the three of us
Yeah.
ever, but I mean, it might be the lowest MWIRE ever, right?
I'd have to go back
seriously?
and no, I'm sure there's some other ones back there, but I'd have to go back and re-listen to some. I know, but between the three of us, that's the lowest we've given one. But
Like
I'm not saying you're wrong.
here's how I come up with that. If 1.5 is all of the monster scenes, and then the rest of it is all of the human scenes. So
I like the way you think.
it's by percentages of fun time to no time.
I like
That
that.
made no sense.
That's no, it made perfect sense.
I don't know if it made
Fun.
perfect sense, but it kind of made sense. Here's the thing: I don't want to be. I hate being one of those guys like, don't go and see this. Like, do not provide money to this. Like, but
Yeah,
like, I mean, go and see it and give us your take. But if you
definitely.
disagree with us, I disagree with you.
But no, here's the thing: we're not going to be the people telling you how great of a movie this is before you go see it. Like,
Yeah,
go
dude,
see it, but be prepared to not be thinking this is the best film of the year.
hold your breath or don't hold your breath, whichever one involves you being like, I don't know.
Yeah, if you
Hold
go in
your
with just like,
atomic
I'm just gonna
breath.
have some fun with this, then you'll be fine. Don't go in thinking this is gonna be amazing. Although we were
Right.
apparently wrong with the Amazing Spider-Man, so maybe we're wrong with Godzilla.
And Captain America too.
Yeah, we've been wrong a lot.
That's the
I
universe
don't. I
disagrees
don't
with
see
all
us
of
as wrong.
I'm not saying we're wrong. All right, as far as stuff coming out this next week to look forward to, as far as Blu-ray goes, 3 Days to Kill, I believe that was Kevin Costner's version of Taken, comes out. We also have, let's see, Lawless, The Monuments Men. Pompeii is already being released on 3D. That's just came out this year. Uh,
There was at the local used DVD store. There was the Asylum Pompeii, like Pompeii Armageddon. And I was there with some friends on Saturday, and they're like, "Is this already on a DVD?" And I was like, "No, dude, just look at that. That's clearly an Asylum." And I picked it up, and it was Asylum.
nice.
That's like, but that one didn't do well either in theaters, so
I was
it'll be here
actually
soon.
going through on demand. It's been a long time since I've seen what films are available on my on demand, and there was like 7 or 8 2014 films that are already on there. And I was like, ooh.
Wow.
A bunch of steelbooks coming out for those fans of steelbooks. The Evil Dead, Killing Them Softly, Law Abiding Citizen, Lawless, The Lords of Salem.
What's a steelbook?
It's like,
It's a metal DVD case, essentially.
yeah, it's like a special edition type deal. There's more to it, but just a lot of extras, I believe, in a different type of case. Um, and as far as films being released into the theater this next week, it's basically about one film, and that would be X-Men Days of Future Past. Although Blended is trying to give some people that extra option. That's Drew Barrymore and Adam Sandler.
Man,
Maybe it'll try to capture that Neighbors crowd or something like that. The Angriest Man in Brooklyn with Robin Williams has a limited release. But it's really about X-Men Days of Future Past next week.
dude, I hope X-Men and Godzilla just kill Blended. Like, I mean,
I think X-Men is going to kill everything.
I'm just, I'm sorry if you're looking forward to Blended with Drew Barrymore and Adam Sandler, but I am not, and I'm kind of tired of her doing the same thing over and over again.
Although
Don't
she
get me
has
But I
been a
like
part
the
of,
same thing over and over again.
she has been a part of the only like watchable Adam Sandler comedies in the last like 10 years.
Like, I mean, I saw some of her earlier stuff in that same genre, and I liked it. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, I don't know.
I think 10 years is a stretch. I think you're not going far back enough.
Yeah, it might not be. Like he had his initial run, and then like the only funny stuff he did after that, I thought was like 50 First Dates with Drew Barrymore, and there was like one other film with Drew Barrymore that.
That was like 15 years ago, dude.
Yeah, time flies when you're having fun. Yeah, so I guess go see X-Men Days of Future Past, and if your girlfriend doesn't want to go see it or your wife, then she can go see Blended.
50 First Dates was 10 years ago, Nate.
Yes.
Fine.
Exactly 10 years ago.
This guy
But
knows.
well, I guess I was thinking of Wedding Singer.
Oh, that would have been the other one. Good point. Good point. I kind of just put that in the first run mix of his good films before it got repetitive.
The Wedding Singer was more than 15 years ago.
Man.
Our dates are terrible. We're terrible senses of
No,
time.
I'm bad at this too. Don't get me wrong.
As far as viewer or listener feedback from last week's episode, which was all about our favorite movie, supervillains, and we asked what people's favorite villains were and if our list was good or not good, etc. A lot of agreement, actually, from a lot of people. Insurgent Cinema said there's not a supervillain performance that holds a candle to Heath Ledger as the Joker. Connor Murphy said, I agree, it begins and ends with Ledger. No one else comes close. I don't know if I'd go that far. But obviously they're Ledger fans there. Some people that didn't realize there was other people that liked the Spirit as much as they did. That was Jared Kessler. Favorite supervillain performance, Nick Stahl as Yellow Bastard in Sin City, Michael Clark Duncan as Kingpin, Kevin Bacon in X-Men. Who else got mentions here? Dragono like Zod, Terrence Stamp as Zod in the original Superman movies. Someone agreed with him there. Brad Kellogg. We didn't get no feedback from Freddie Savage.
Oh man.
Yeah, Justin Washington gave us an entire top 10, so if you want to see what his top 10 villains are, you can go to the site and check it out, but he does have Heath Ledger as Joker as his number one. And then Walking Dread, Fassbender's Magneto, which technically, I don't know if you can consider him a villain.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the very beginning, he's going around killing Nazis,
Yeah.
which I guess isn't really a villain either.
He also listed Ian McKellen as Magneto, so apparently he likes Magneto. Ledger's Joker, Aaron Eckhart's Two-Face, and Alfred Molina as Doc Ock, or Ock. I don't know how you would shorten that. I don't know what the correct way to shorten that is.
That's correct. Well, wait, no. Sometimes the K.
I usually do K, but he has a T like it's in October.
I think it's either way is acceptable.
Either way, you know who he's talking about, I guess.
Yeah. I got some feedback that no one can see. I just happened to casually mention that we did our top 10 villains list to some of my other friends, Doug and Chris, who I oftentimes see Marvel movies with. I've mentioned them a few times, and when I told them, like, they like, who's your number one, and it wasn't immediately Tom Hiddleston, I got a little bit of rejection, and then they're like, give us your whole list. And I did, and they, well, one of them said he would never ever listen to MWIRE because I didn't put Loki in there at all.
You have
He's like,
terrible friends.
yeah, no, I do. But I love him. And he said like almost all of my choices were wrong, and then I couldn't remember one of them, so he had to listen to like 10 minutes of it. And he just like he's like, it sounds like you're just calling in, like you're the phone a friend or something. Get a lot of negative feedback about MWire, and he's wrong, and he's right. Yeah. So when I said John Travolta, he was done. That was the one I couldn't remember, and I still think we should watch that movie because I think that's really good.
Interesting feedback, and we should get we need more feedback. So send us a bunch of feedback. You can email us at feedback@geekcastradio.com. You can even call the voicemail line. We'll put your clip in the show so people can hear you. It's 502-526-5821. You can do what a lot of people do and visit the geekcastradio.com webpage and click on the MWIRE Weekly Post and just join the conversation there. You can make comments on the Facebook page when it gets announced that the new episode's out. You can find that post and comment there. Just search out Geekcast Radio Network on Facebook. Or you can tweet us. You can call out the show name at Geekcast Radio and then just do a hashtag of MWIRE Weekly. You can comment me directly at Optimus Solo. And again, pay attention to these names here. Nate, what is your Twitter?
At Adolfo Shabadoo.
It's easy to say.
Adolfo
it's just like it sounds.
Shabadoo.
Matt, what's your Twitter?
My Twitter is at Fridley Cent, but no one has trouble remembering me. I'm doing the breath polish my fingernails because I'm a cool guy.
All right, and before we go, we need to leave you with a question for next week. Do either of you guys have a question that you wanted to throw out there?
I do.
Oh.
What is it?
What movie do you think could have been better if there were less humans in it?
Ooh, I like that question.
That is a weird question.
All right, I like it. Movies that could have been better with less humans in them.
Also, congratulations on your first ever MWIRE question, Nathan.
Yay!
So respond, or Nathan will feel bad and he'll never suggest another question.
Whatever.
All right, that is it for us this week. Remember, for all things movies, keep tuned to MWIRE Weekly.